Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're continuing our reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, part 2. We're continuing with our reading. We're into chapter 21, conversation between Manu and Kardama, and we're going to have to find out from text 21. Thank you, Karuna Sagar. I continuously offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet, of which it is worthy to take shelter, because you shower all benedictions on the insignificant, to give all living entities detachment from fruitive activity by realizing you. You have expanded these material worlds by your own energy. Everyone, therefore, whether he desires material enjoyment, liberation, or the transcendental loving service of the Lord, should engage himself offering obeisances unto the Supreme Lord, because the Lord can award everyone his desired benediction. In Bhagavad-gītā, the Lord affirms, Ye yatha mam prapadyante, anyone who desires to be a successful enjoyer in this material world is awarded that benediction by the Lord. Anyone who wants to be liberated from the entanglement of this material world is given liberation by the Lord. And anyone who desires to constantly engage in his service in full Krishna consciousness is awarded that benediction by the Lord. For material enjoyment, he has prescribed so many ritualistic sacrificial performances in the Vedas, and thus people may take advantage of those instructions and enjoy material life in higher planets or in a noble aristocratic family. These processes are mentioned in the Vedas, and one can take advantage of them. It is similar with those who want to be liberated from this material world. Unless one is disgusted with the enjoyment of this material world, he cannot aspire for liberation. Liberation is for one who is disgusted with material enjoyment. Vedanta Sutra says, therefore, atato brahma jignasa. Those who have given up the attempt to be happy in this material world can inquire about the Absolute Truth. For those who want to know the Absolute Truth, the Vedanta Sutra is available, as is Srimad Bhagavatam, the actual explanation of Vedanta Sutra. Since Bhagavad-gītā is also Vedanta Sutra, since Bhagavad-gītā is also Vedanta Sutra, by understanding Srimad Bhagavatam, Vedanta Sutra, or Bhagavad-gītā, one can obtain real knowledge. When one obtains real knowledge, he becomes theoretically one with the Supreme. And when he actually begins the service of Brahman, or Krishna consciousness, he is not only liberated, but situated in his spiritual life. Similarly, for those who want to lord it over material nature, there are so many departments of material enjoyment. Material knowledge and material science are available, and the Lord provides for persons who want to enjoy them. Which reminds me of, I stayed with Radhika Raman. Nirkul and I stayed there for a few days with Radhika Raman and his family in Utah. We were in the state for the Sadhu Sangha. It was 2 years ago, I think. And we have a relationship with him because he comes to ISV at least once a year to give these outstanding talks. In any case, while we were there, it came up in a conversation about the academic world we were discussing, and he said many of these professors, they're like sages. He said they can forego even sex because they're so absorbed in their intellectual property. Because they've been endowed with really powerful minds, they can think really deeply about subjects, and he said they can appear very, very renounced. The way they live, almost sage-like. They don't need a lot of extra trappings. They dress slovenly sometimes, like sometimes sages, they just don't care. He said, but the one thing they're so attached to is their ideas. And in the academic world, it's cutthroat, and whoever's the best idea amongst all the Munis wins, but that's their main thing that they become really attached to. Material knowledge and material science are available, and the Lord provides for persons who want to enjoy them. The conclusion is that one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead for any benediction. The word kama varsham is very significant, for it indicates that he satisfies the desires of anyone who approaches him. But one who sincerely loves Krishna and yet wants material enjoyment is in perplexity. Krishna, being very kind towards him, gives him an opportunity to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, and so he gradually forgets the hallucination. Maitreya resumed, sincerely extolled in these words Lord Vishnu, shining very beautifully on the shoulders of Garuda, replied with words as sweet as nectar. His eyebrows moved gracefully as he looked at the sage with a smile full of affection. The word Vaiśeṣika is significant. Whenever the Lord speaks, he speaks from the transcendental world. He does not speak from the material world. Since he is transcendental, his speech is also transcendental, as is his activity. Everything in relation to him is transcendental. The word Amrita refers to one who does not meet with death. The words and activities of the Lord are deathless. Therefore, they are not manufactured of this material world. The sound of this material world and that of the spiritual world are completely different. The sound of the spiritual world is nectarian and eternal, whereas the sound of the material world is hackneyed and subject to end. The sound of the holy name, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, everlastingly increases the enthusiasm of the chanter. If one repeats monotonous material worlds, he will feel exhausted. But if he chants Hare Krishna 24 hours a day, he will never feel exhausted. Rather, he will feel encouraged to continue chanting more and more. When the Lord replied to the sage Kardama, the word Vaiśeṣika is specifically mentioned, since he spoke from the transcendental world. He replied in transcendental words, and when he spoke, his eyebrows moved with great affection. When a devotee praises the glories of the Lord is very satisfied, and he bestows his transcendental benediction upon the devotee without reservation, because he is always causelessly merciful toward his devotee. The Supreme Lord said, having come to know what was in your mind, I have already arranged for that for which you have worshipped me well through your mental and sensory discipline. Mental and sensory discipline. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Paramatma feature is situated in everyone's heart. He knows, therefore, the past, present, and future of every individual person, as well as his desires, activities, and everything about him. It is stated in Bhagavad-gītā that he is seated in the heart as a witness. The personality of Godhead knew the heart's desire of Kardama Muni, and he had already arranged for the fulfillment of his desires. He never disappoints a sincere devotee, regardless of what he wants, but he never allows anything which will be detrimental to the individual's devotional service. Satyam dishati artito artino rinam naivartato yat puna artito yata swayam vidate pachatam anichatam ichapitanam nijapada palavam. If somebody asks me for a benediction, again and again, I'll give it, Krishna speaking, 5th canto, but I'll do it in such a way that he won't want it anymore. And instead, I'll give him swayam vidate bhajatam anichatam. I'll make him want my lotus feet instead. The Lord continued, "My dear Rishi, O leader of the living entities, for those who serve me in devotion by worshipping me, especially persons like you who have given up everything unto me, there's never any question of frustration." Did I read the purport to 23? Yeah, regardless of what he wants. But he never allows anything which will be detrimental. Don't touch the dirty money. The Lord continued, "My dear Rishi, O leader of the living entities, for those who serve me in devotion by worshipping me, especially persons like you who have given up everything unto me, there is never any question of frustration." Purport. Even if he has some desires, one engaged in the service of the Lord is never frustrated. Even if he has some desires, one engaged in the service of the Lord is never frustrated. Those engaged in his service are called sakama and akama. Those who approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead with desires for material enjoyment are called sakama, and those devotees who have no material desires for sense gratification, but serve the Supreme Lord out of spontaneous love for him, are called akama. Sakama devotees are divided into 4 classes: those in distress, those in need of money, the inquisitive, and the wise. Someone worships the Supreme Lord because of bodily or mental distress. Someone else worships the Supreme Lord because he is in need of money. Someone else worships the Lord out of inquisitiveness to know him as he is, and someone wants to know the Lord as a philosopher can know him, by the research work of his wisdom. There is no frustration for any of these 4 classes of men. Each is endowed with the desired result of his worship. Each is endowed with the desired result of his worship. The Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, the son of Lord Brahma, who is well known for his righteous acts, has his seat in Brahmavarta and rules over the earth with its 7 oceans. Purport. Sometimes it is stated that Brahmavarta is part of Kurukshetra, or that Kurukshetra itself is situated in Brahmavarta, because the demigods are recommended to perform spiritual ritualistic performances in Kurukshetra. But in others' opinion, Brahmavarta is a place in Brahmaloka where Swayambhuva ruled. There are many places on the surface of this earth which are also known in the higher planetary systems. We have places on this planet like Vrindavan, Dwarka, and Mathura, but they are also eternally situated in Krishna Loka. There are many similar names on the surface of the earth, and it may be that in the Boer age, Swayambhuva Manu ruled this planet as stated here. The word Mangala is significant. Mangala means one who is elevated in every respect in the opulences of religious performances, ruling power, cleanliness, and all other good qualities. Vikyata means celebrated. Swayambhuva Manu was celebrated for all good qualities and opulences. The day after tomorrow, O Brahmana, that celebrated emperor who is expert in religious activities will come here with his queen, Shatarupa, wishing to see you. He has a grown-up daughter whose eyes are black. She is ready for marriage, and she has good character and all good qualities. She is also searching for a good husband. My dear sir, her parents will come to see you, who are exactly suitable for her, just to deliver their daughter as your wife. Purport. The selection of a good husband for a good girl was always entrusted to the parents. Here it is clearly stated that Manu and his wife were coming to see Kardama to offer their daughter because the daughter was well qualified and the parents were searching out a similarly qualified man. This is the duty of parents. Girls are never thrown into the public street to search out their husband. For when girls are grown up and are searching after a boy, they forget to consider whether the boy they select is actually suitable for them. Out of the urge of sex desire, a girl may accept anyone, but if the husband is chosen by the parents, they can consider who is to be selected and who is not. According to the Vedic system, therefore, the girl is given over to a suitable boy by the parents. She is never allowed to select her own husband independently. The princess, that princess, O holy sage, will be just the type you have been thinking of in your heart for all these long years. She will soon be yours and will serve you to your heart's content. Purport: the Lord awards all benedictions according to the heart's desire of a devotee. So the Lord informed Kardama Muni. The girl who is coming to be married with you is a princess, the daughter of Emperor Swayambhuva, and so just suitable for your purpose. Only by God's grace can one get a nice wife, just as he desires. Similarly, it is only by God's grace that a girl gets a husband suitable to her heart. Thus it is said that if we pray to the Supreme Lord in every transaction of our material existence, everything will be done very nicely and just suitable to our heart's desire. In other words, in all circumstances we must take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and depend completely on his decision. Man proposes, God disposes. The fulfillment of desires, therefore, should be entrusted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the nicest solution. Kardama Muni desired only a wife, but because he was a devotee of the Lord selected a wife for him who was the emperor's daughter, a princess. Thus, Kardama Muni got a wife beyond his expectation. If we depend on the choice of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will we receive benedictions in greater opulence than we desire. Just saying. It is also significantly noted here that Kardama Muni was a Brahmana, whereas Emperor Swayambhuva was a Kshatriya. Therefore, intercaste marriage was current even in those days. The system was that a Brahmana could marry the daughter of a Kshatriya, but a Kshatriya could not marry the daughter of a Brahmana. We have evidences from the history of the Vedic age that Shukracharya offered his daughter to Maharaj Yayati, but the king had to refuse to marry the daughter of a Brahmana. Only with the special permission of the Brahmana could they marry. Intercaste marriage, therefore, was not prohibited in the olden days, many millions of years ago, but there was a regular system of social behavior. She will bring forth 9 daughters from the seed sown in her by you, and through the daughters you beget, the sages will duly beget children. With your heart cleansed by properly carrying out my command, resigning to me the fruits of all your acts, you will finally attain me. Here the words tirti krita shesha kriyartaha are significant. Tirtha means a sanctified place where charity is given. People used to go to places of pilgrimage and give munificently in charity. This system is still current. Therefore the Lord said, in order to sanctify your activities and the results of your actions, you will offer everything unto me. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad-gītā. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you sacrifice, the results should be given to me only. In another place in Bhagavad-gītā, the Lord said, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices, all penances, and everything done for the welfare of mankind or society. All activities, therefore, whether for the welfare of family, society, country, or humanity at large, must be performed in Krishna consciousness. That is the instruction given by the Lord to Kardama Muni. Maharaj Yudhishthira welcomed Narada Muni. Wherever you are present, that place becomes sanctified because the Lord himself is always seated in your heart. Similarly, if we act in Krishna consciousness under the direction of the Lord and his representative, then everything is sanctified. This is the indication given to Kardama Muni, who acted on it and therefore received the most excellent wife and child, as will be disclosed in later verses. Showing compassion to all living entities, you will attain self-realization. Giving assurance of safety to all, you will perceive your own self as well as all the universe in me and myself in you. Purport: this simple process of self-realization, the simple process of self-realization for every living entity is described here. The first principle to be understood is that this world is a product of the Supreme Will. There is an identity of this world with the Supreme Lord. This identity is accepted in a misconceived way by the impersonalists. They say that the Supreme Absolute Truth, transforming himself into the universe, loses his separate existence. Thus they accept the world and everything in it to be the Lord. That is pantheism, wherein everything is considered to be the Lord. This is the view of the impersonalist. But those who are personal devotees of the Lord take everything to be the property of the Supreme Lord. Everything, whatever we see, is the manifestation of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. This is oneness. The difference between the impersonalist and the personalist is that the impersonalist does not accept the separate existence of the Lord, but the personalist accepts the Lord. He understands that although he distributes himself in so many ways, he has his separate personal existence. This is described in Bhagavad-gītā. Quote, I am spread all over the universe in my impersonal form. Everything is resting on me, but I am not present. Unquote. There is a nice example regarding the sun and the sunshine. The sun by its sunshine is spread all over the universe, and all the planets rest on the sunshine. But all the planets are different from the sun planet. One cannot say that because the planets are resting on the sunshine, these planets are also the sun. Similarly, the impersonal or pantheistic view that everything is God is not a very intelligent proposal. The real position, as explained by the Lord himself, is that although nothing can exist without him, it is not a fact that everything is him. He is different from everything. So here also the Lord says, you will see everything in the world to be non-different from me. Who was it? Vamsuli? Were you on the list? Go ahead. We can go back and roll the tape later, so.
Guru Maharaj, actually, I was thinking about the conundrum of how people want a lot of things in the world. And when they come to devotion, maybe not everything that I want is good for me. So Krishna may withhold it for my benefit. But we still suffer by the presence of that desire, or that feeling the so-called absence or the lack of that thing. And we still, like I was hearing about the point where the devotee still has material desires and is perplexed.
Well, not for long. If somebody continues the process of devotional service, then they'll come to a realization of how Krishna has artfully given them everything that's not only good for them, but that actually fulfills their heart's desire. That's one of the words or the phrases, abhishta doham, that's used. Deyam sada paribhavagam abhishta doham. When one worships the lotus feet of the Mahapurush, and who's fit to be meditated on, deyam sada, always you can meditate there. Paribhavagyam means he takes away all of the embarrassments of material existence. And then finally, abhishta doham. He fulfills the desires, the innermost desire of the soul that we may not even know. We may not know how to desire. We desire improperly. And so, just like Dhruva Maharaj, it's the quintessential example, because after attaining the Lord, he said, I realized I was searching for something useless, and now I've gotten the most valuable. So that's temporary situation for the neophyte devotee who still hankers for material things. Okay, was there one more outside? No? Okay. Let's just take a Guranga stretch before we go to the next. Kṛṣṇa, which verse are we on? 32? Okay. O great sage, I shall manifest my own plenary portion through your wife, Devahuti, along with your 9 daughters, and I shall instruct her in the system of philosophy that deals with the ultimate principles or categories. Herein the word Swamsha Kalaya indicates that the Lord would appear as the son of Devahuti and Kardama Muni as Kapiladev, the first propounder of the Sankhya philosophy, which is mentioned here as Tattva Samhita. The Lord foretold to Kardama Muni that he would appear in his incarnation, Kapiladev, and would propagate the philosophy of Sankhya. Sankhya philosophy is very well known in the world as propagated by another Kapiladev. But that Sankhya philosophy is different from the Sankhya which was propounded by the Lord himself. There are 2 kinds of Sankhya philosophy. One is godless Sankhya philosophy and the other is godly Sankhya philosophy. The Sankhya propagated by Kapiladev, son of Devahuti, is godly philosophy. There are different manifestations of the Lord. He is one, but he has become many. He divides himself into 2 different expansions, one called Kala and the other is called Vibhinamsha. Ordinary living entities are called Vibhinamsha expansions, and the unlimited expansions of Vishnu Tattva, such as Vaman, Govinda, Narayan, Pradyumna, Vasudeva and Ananta, are called Swamsha Kala. Swamsha refers to a direct expansion, and Kala denotes an expansion from the expansion of the original Lord. Baladev is an expansion of Krishna, and from Baladev the next expansion is Sankarsana. Thus Sankarsana is Kala, but Baladev is Swangsha. There is no difference, however, among them. This is very nicely explained in the Brahma Samhita 546. Departure eva hida shantanam abhupetya. With one candle one may light a second candle, with the second a third, and then a fourth. And in this way one can light up thousands of candles. And no candle is inferior to another in distributing light. Every candle has the full potential candle power, but there is still the distinction that one candle is the first, another the second, another the third, and another the fourth. Similarly, there is no difference between the immediate expansion of the Lord and his secondary expansion. The Lord's names are considered in exactly the same way. Since the Lord is absolute, his name, his form, his pastimes, his paraphernalia, and his quality all have the same potency. In the absolute world, the name Kṛṣṇa is the transcendental sound representation of the Lord. There is no potential difference between his quality, name, form, etc. If we chant the name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, that has as much potency as the Lord himself. There is no potential difference between the form of the Lord whom we worship and the form of the Lord in the temple. One should not think that one is worshipping a doll or statue of the Lord, even if others consider it to be a statue, because there is not potential difference. One gets the same result by worshipping the statue of the Lord or the Lord himself. This is the science of Krishna consciousness. That was that yoga lounge in Toronto. What was it called? Bhakti Lounge. You should know. That's where you joined. Urban Edge Yoga, then Bhakti Lounge. I went there one night. That's where I met Samya Prash. It's the first time you walked in the door. But there was this guy there that had come off the street. And after I gave my presentation, he came up and he goes, I like Hare Krishna and everything like that, but I just have one question. I said, what? And he goes, why do you guys worship dolls? And then I explained to him the post box and the letter, and it has to be authorized and so forth. He was half satisfied. Maitreya went on, thus having spoken to Kardama Muni, the Lord, who reveals himself only when the senses are in Krishna consciousness, departed from that lake called Bindu Sarovara, which was encircled by the river Saraswati. One word in this verse is significant. The Lord is stated here to be pratyag akshaja. He is imperceptible to material senses, but still he can be seen. This appears to be contradictory. We have material senses, but how can we see the Supreme Lord? He is adoksaja, which means that he cannot be seen by the material senses. Aksaja means knowledge perceived by material senses. Because the Lord is not an object that can be understood by speculation with our material senses, he is also called the Jitta. He will conquer, but no one can conquer him. What does it mean then that still he can be seen? It is explained that no one can hear the transcendental name of Krishna, no one can understand his transcendental form, and no one can assimilate his transcendental pastimes. It is not possible. Then how is it possible that he can be seen and understood? When one is trained in devotional service and renders service unto him, gradually one's senses are purified of material contamination. When one's senses are thus purified, then one can see, one can understand, one can hear, and so on. The purification of the material senses and perception of the transcendental form, name, and quality of Krishna are combined together in one word, pratyak akshaja, which is used here. Pratyak akshaja. Text 34.
We have 56 verses.
56? Okay, it's time for the cow break. We'll come back here at 5:15. Gaur Premanande.